Introduction.
All right, welcome to the Red Phillip Show, everybody. It's I don't know, some day in September. We're just fucking hanging out. And Chris, since you want to do the intros,
we got our biggest guest ever. Fucking the guy, the man, the myth, the legend. Okay, I'm talking about the fucking. Put it this way, it's like a twin prophet shit. All right, Patrice is one prophet. And we got another prophet here. Fucking Dante Nero of the Beige Phillip Show. Okay, I'm saying he was in the Patrice O'Neal show coming soon. He was fucking on Tough Crowd, which is the reason why the shit is going on now. Why dudes are suffering, because Tough Crowd was it, man.
Yeah.
Tough Crowd was like leading the revolution, man. Fucking.
Speaking of that, Dante, I don't know.
His album just dropped, man. Dante Nero. What is it? Dante Nero Live. Yeah.
Yeah.
It don't matter because.
Where can they pick that up?
Yeah.
iTunes.
It's on Google Play and iTunes. You can get it on either one.
Perfect. All right, Dante Nero Live. Speaking of Tough Crowd, do you happen to see that video I posted on the Get the Beige Phillip on O&A page on Facebook?
No, I didn't. What'd you post?
I found the episode of you and Patrice, on Tough Crowd and everything. The one guy really liked it, and he picked exactly the moment that I think everybody seemed to love, was where you came up with that word. What was it?
It was de-dixify.
De-dixify. Fucking amazing, right? It was a good fucking episode.
You know what's crazy about that show is that people don't even understand how fast that show was. Like being on there with Patrice and Nick and those guys. So a lot of people would go on that show who was supposed to be killer comics, and they would get on that show and the whole hour, half hour would go by, and they wouldn't say anything the whole time. It was almost like they were trying to jump double dutch and they just couldn't get in the ropes, and it just the whole show would go by without them saying a word. So it was so, those guys were so fast and so quick.
You know what my favorite episode of that was? Is the one with Patrice and Pat Cooper. Fucking Pat Cooper is the man, yo.
Yeah. But Pat Cooper's one of those comics from he was the old school comic, but he was an in-your-face comic, and he could handle the speed of what was going on with those guys. And they were all kind of cut from the same fabric.
Yeah, man. Fucking.
I was noticing that you were having a little trouble getting in there, but you started, like you said, it's double dutch, right? You jump in, and then when you're in, you're in, and it keeps going, right?
Yeah. And that also was my first television credit.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
wow.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Like, let's give a credit. I mean, he didn't just jump in the tank, man. He jumped in the fucking deep end of the pool, man, with sharks, fishes with little light bulbs on their fucking head. This isn't like he went on fucking cable access, TV. This is Tough Crowd.
I think I was doing comedy about 2 years then.
Holy shit, man! That's a tough crowd to jump in on, right?
Yeah. It was something else, man. I mean, people don't realize how good those guys were. I mean, I remember, like, if you're a comic and you watch, I remember going to a show with Patrice and Tony Woods, David Tell, Greg Giraldo, and I think Mike Britt was hosting. And those shows, it was such deep water. Like, if you were a new comic and they asked you to do a spot on there, you'd be like, no, thanks, I'm good.
Oh, shit. So, not even to showcase, like, even if you think you're good enough?
Yeah. But you go to you watch those guys and you go, nah, look, I'm not, I don't belong here,
I can't hang. It's like when they tried to, feed tomato cans to Mike Tyson. Just eat bums.
That seems like...
You're not going to win.
Yeah, that seems like that should almost be the defining moment of if you're a great comic or not. If you can bang with all the other great, the other comics that have been in it forever.
Well, you got you gotta take into consideration there's different styles of comics, and like for instance, like Gaffigan. Well, I think he's a funny dude, but if you heckle Gaffigan will not go back and forth with you. He'll go, listen, if you heckle again, I'm gonna have security remove you. That was
see that. I mean, that's pussy, and it's funny that you mentioned Jim Gaffigan because he's exactly the person I was thinking of on Tough Crowd that really couldn't get in on the Double Dutch. I was watching his episode, and he just couldn't do it. He was sitting there, and they said something like, "Well, Jim, what do you think of that?" And he's just like, "I got nothing to say, man." He just couldn't do it. So I mean, it's interesting to watch. To me, it's like you could seem like an amazing comic on stage when you're alone, no other comics, messing with you. But you are a great comic when you can bang it out with all the other comics and sit there. And it's not even about the stage anymore. It's like just sitting at a table with a bunch of comics. Yeah. And you can go back and forth and hold your own. That's, I think, when it's like a defining moment.
I think you have to. You got. I mean, but I think there's guys who, in terms of just comedy, just writing jokes, are great writers and great comics. But I think those guys on there, they were personalities, and so they had point of views and opinions, and that's really what you were tuning into. And I always remember, just something that Patrice said to me. He said, "Look, I don't want people to look at me and go, wow, that guy tells great jokes. He goes, wow, that guy tells funny jokes. He wants them to say, I'm a funny guy. That the essence of who I am is a funny person.
The philosophy, his view on life is funny, and he's great at portraying that to people, rather than just coming up with funny jokes.
Right. There's no difference between him, what his comedy is, and what he does on stage. And
on stage or off stage, he's the same person, and he's funny all around.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I learned a lot from that. It's like one of the things that I tell young comics all the time. Like, you come up with something funny, and it's funny, and somebody go, man, you should take that on stage. Well, one of the things that I don't do is, if it's something funny on stage, and it's funny for me and my friends, or me and my other comic friends, or whatever, I don't just take everything on the stage. I think that funny is it's almost it's like a living thing that you have to feed. And when you're having fun with your friends and just knocking about, if you take everything that you've ever said funny and you put it on stage, then there's nothing for you to cultivate your funny. If it really is a separate entity. So there's things, if I don't care about something, even if it's really funny, I won't talk about it on stage.
So you're never gonna do things like, okay, I got a question. I didn't interject because I ain't said shit for a while. So
go ahead.
One thing I don't fucking like. There's actually two things I don't like. All right. One is I don't like when a comedian does their material when they're on like a talk show, because I think that just doesn't
like verbatim. You mean? Like,
where a guy he's saying when a guy uses a bit to answer a question.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Like, okay. Because I just feel that's like, I'd like if I was on a talk show, right? Like, I would like it just to feel natural. Like, we're having a fun conversation, not like, hey, I need you to set up my jokes for me.
And that makes me think of, what's his name? Buddy from Legit. What's his the Australian guy? I'm blanking on his name right now.
Jim Jeffries?
Jim Jeffries, right? He tells a lot of stories, and he'll bring up his stories when it's appropriate, like to the conversation, because that's a style of comedy. So I think that's all right when you're on a talk show or whatever, bringing that kind of thing up. But like a legitimate joke or something right into it, it doesn't fit. It doesn't seem right.
I don't know if you guys do you get Comics Unleashed? Do you get that?
No, I don't think I've seen that.
All right, Comics Unleashed is a really crappy version of Tough Crowd.
Okay.
And what they do is they bring 4 comics on, and Byron Allen, who is the master of 2 o'clock in the morning television production. He's a millionaire from doing late night, like like ungodly hour television.
Really?
Yeah.
Infomercials?
Yeah, well, he does. Well, no, I mean he does. He had a talk show. He had this everything he does is at 2 o'clock in the morning, right?
All right.
Well, he created this show called Comics Unleashed. He would bring the comics on. It was basically Tough Crowd without any of the edge. So what it was he'd go, you have a joke about a three-legged dog, and he'd go, hey, Nick, you have a three-legged dog, right? And then he would set you up to go into your bit.
Oh,
and
that's horrible.
They actually do their bit. He sets you up. You do your bit right for them in that moment.
See, that's our type. I mean, that's not our type of radio that we're trying to do. And in the sense of Opie and Anthony trying to, I guess a lot of people would associate us with them. I think that's what we like the most about them is there's a lot of radio that does or podcasts that sit down and go, all right, you're a comedian, tell us your jokes, tell us your do your show for us. We want it to be conversational, and then your jokes will come out, and maybe you'll come up with new bits just from the shit we talk about.
You have to understand that sometimes there's a lot of comics that have just studied the craft for the sake of they're just very technical comics, and they don't
that makes sense.
They don't have they're technical in that sense, and they don't really have the personality. Their personality. And one of the things I said, you can have a guy who's very technical and is very funny, is a great comic, but to the point where they're so technical that it almost reads as their personality, or that as if they're revealing things that are personal.
But in reality, they're not really like that.
They're really not real.
Not in real life.
Yeah, see, I don't. To me, it's like almost like okay, like Floyd Mayweather. He's technically a good boxer, but he's not a fucking fighter. Like he doesn't go out there and fight. He goes out there just to do what you expect him to do and grind out a win. Whereas like Mike Tyson back in the day had a lot of fucking passion and fury, and you could tell that's just what he was when he fought.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I think
don't try to defend Floyd Mayweather. Come on.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you why. If you look at Mayweather technically, and just in terms of his raw talent, that guy. If you say I boxed for years, you watch that guy throw left hooks, like triple left hooks. The ability to throw triple left hooks, in the context of a fight, is an amazing task to do.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have. What I probably should have said is like he isn't going out there with the passion to win. He's going out there with the passion not to lose.
I don't agree with that. I mean, you can't think for 1 minute that guy is I think the problem what people see is that he's so good at what he does. It makes it look easier. The bottom line is you go in front of like if you just saw the Cotto fight.
Yeah.
He took a lot of shots in the Cotto fight, but there's a lot of times when he's so quick and he's so skilled that these guys they just can't hit him. They can't even touch him. Like this kid that he just fought, the Mexican kid he just
the guy he just fought, the guy was like 20 or something, 23.
But all of that game plan, I'm gonna knock his head off, I'm gonna knock him down, it's my time. And then when this guy is popping you with 3 shots every time you think about your game plan, it all goes like it starts to look like a clinic. And it doesn't look like a clinic because he's not fighting. He looks like a clinic because he's just so much better than the competition below, the competition that he's fighting. I mean, the guy's taking shots. I mean, you're not supposed to take shots. I think when you look at a guy like Mike Tyson, he didn't take a lot of shots until he stopped training.
The thing with Mike Tyson is, though, I just mean in the sense that Mike Tyson, you knew in 2 minutes he's going to knock somebody out. That's more exciting for me, and I'm equating this to comedy poorly, but what I mean is I like comedians that go out there and it's them on the stage. It's not, like, I'll never say Jerry Seinfeld isn't funny, but I don't like his kind of funny, because it's just, what's the deal? Like, I want to see...
He's technical.
He's technical.
He's not really a technical kind of dude, and that's all right.
Another thing I didn't like is when a comedian does, like, I don't particularly like it when a comedian does crowd work. Although I know when Patrice O'Neal did it, it was natural. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't I think
what you're talking about is crowd work, almost prepared crowd work, is what
that's what I'm talking about. Like I'm fucking horrible at trying to explain this, and I'm trying to be eloquent.
Well, what you're saying is, would anybody have a dog out there, and then you do your dog?
Yeah.
But here's where I think you have to look at even with that, and this is something that, I mean, I pay homage to Patrice so much, not because he was a great teacher, because he sucked as a teacher, but he if you watch him, you could figure, if you're smart enough, you could figure it out. Patrice never asked a question to anybody that he didn't really know the answer, want to know the answer. So
it wasn't useless. Nothing he said was wasted.
Okay. Now, when he asked you a question, when he said to a couple of you guys together, there was something about that couple that interested him, and because it interested him, he was exploring that. And as he asked questions, he was taking in information and gaining an understanding of what's going on. So, but you in the context of comedy, the crowd allows you to ask those questions knowing that you don't really give a fuck about those answers. So, hey, anybody out there married? Oh, and then this guy who's married is going to do his joke about being married. Patrice said to me, he said, look, if you're going to do your joke about being married, don't ask people if they're married, because you're going to do your joke anyway. If the whole crowd is single, you're going to do your stupid joke about being married anyway. So why ask if there's no reason for it?
Don't ask useless questions.
Right.
It's pointless.
I think that's like equates to life. Like one thing I knew about Patrice O'Neal that I fucking just because it's exactly how I feel. Like when you guys did shit like the Black Phillip show and Patrice on Opie and Anthony, you fucking said exactly how I felt.
Right.
Like I didn't know how to put it out there, but like the pleasantry dance, I refuse to do it in life.
Right.
I will not do it anymore. I've been done with it for at least a year now, and I feel so much better.
Okay, listen. Before we get on to Black Phillip and all that, all the important shit that we could go on for hours about, Dante, I know you go on. You've got Beige Phillip, and I'm sure everybody wants to talk to you about women and relationships, and I understand you love talking about it. But my thought was, you come on here and we should hang out a little bit before we get into all that, all the technical stuff and everything.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I was thinking, we went into talking about fighting and everything, and we got a bit of a surprise for you. I don't know if you've watched this in a while. I found Bounced on YouTube.
Yeah.
I wanna play this shit for everybody because I think it really defines you.
You know what we can't forget to do, though?
What's that?
We cannot forget to do advice from Ellie.
Right.
Mm. You looking for the clip?
What the fuck is this quiet?
Are you looking for the clip?
I got it. Can you see it?
No, I can't see it.
All right.
On the
technical
YouTube
difficulties.
thing
In the side there, Dante, there's a list of like apps. Can you see them?
Yeah, Hangout tools and all that stuff. Screens.
Yeah. There's a little red box with a triangle in the center. It looks like a YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Can you see that? Just click that. And it should come up on your screen.
Okay. This is manage your YouTube account. Accept. Okay. All right. Cool.
All right. Can you see what we're looking at?
It's okay. Okay. I see it. Yeah.
All right.
You're loading, right?
Yeah, it's good to go. I'm gonna hit play now.
Okay. It's just loading for me. Is that okay? Is that what it's doing for you?
No, we got it playing right now.
Okay, all right. I think I see it now.
Let us know when it's loaded. Can you see yourself? Can you see yourself?
I just see it says Dante Nero Bounce Part 1 by Dante Nero. It says Dante Nero. It says Dante Nero Bounced, but I'm not actually looking at it.
Yeah, mine's not loading either. Fuck.
Jesus. Technical difficulties. That's all right.
Moving
let's try
on,
to play
I
it
guess.
again. All right. I'm gonna hit play. Tell me if it starts. All right. Anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Jesus. All right. Try hitting play on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
Mine's not loading either. God damn it.
I fucking hate.
Yeah, I don't have it. It's not loading up.
Fucking killing me. All right, yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna edit it in anyway. You know what? I really liked watching you fucking like just proving, because you know you can tell everybody and we all can assume that you've beat the shit out of people and that you're like this big tough guy and everything, right?
Yeah.
But watching that video was fucking awesome because there's one part where you actually I don't know how. I don't know how this worked out, but there's a part where you actually smash a guy in the face, and then you...
Yeah. Well, what's funny is with that is that he actually wasn't in the club. He was just walking by, and then we were shooting what they call B-roll pickups.
Yeah.
You know, like the little talking parts between every reality show that you ever seen.
Yeah,
and,
the pan shots and all that.
Yeah, and they were like, well, you know, if the, like Will says, if I get upset, then somebody's really gonna get, you know, those kind of little pickups.
Yeah.
Edit. And the guy just started talking to me. He just was like, yo, what's up? I was like, you don't, like, I said, you don't see the big camera, the light, there's a light on me, there's a camera. I go, you're just talking.
Yeah, leave us the fuck alone.
I go, what the fuck is wrong with you? And the guy goes, he goes, yo, I don't give a fuck, right? And I'm like, dude, are you out of your fucking mind?
He must have been hammered, right?
Yeah, he had a 40 ounce of beer, and then what he does is he tells me he's gonna fuck me up.
Man, he was like a skinny little white dude too, wasn't he?
He puts the bottle in his hand like he's gonna club me with the bottle, and so I pop him in the mouth.
Yeah.
Which is funny because for the sizzle reel, because we actually A&E actually paid for that. That was almost a show that went on the air.
Man, that would have been a great show. I would have watched it.
But they kept saying that there's no violence, we need more violence. And back then
they need more violence?
We hadn't, at that point in time, we didn't have enough violence in them. Now when you look at Lizard Lick and all these other reality shows, all they do is they fabricate the violence. They get stuntmen and they just fabricate it.
Oh yeah?
And we were really looking for real violence. So we would go into the clubs and we would bounce until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when everybody's drunk and waiting for the violence to happen, and we were just going to be in there and thump.
So as a group of bouncers, how often, I mean, the guy got stabbed in the leg and bitten and shit. How often did violence actually happen? Like, how often did you get in fights?
It happens. I mean, it depends on the where you're bouncing at. I mean, I've bounced at like what transvestite parties where I've seen a dude get hit in the head, a dude hit another dude in the head with a ball peen hammer.
Were they actually dudes though, or were they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were dressed in dresses and stuff, but he hit the dude, pulled the hammer out of his purse and hit the dude in the head with a hammer.
All right, seriously, how do you not stop for a good laugh, then stop the fight? You know what I mean?
You know, one of the reasons why I don't bounce anymore is because it's really not fun. I mean, you actually become the final line between people trying to have a good time and the assholes. And so you really have to be on point because you could get stabbed. You could get a good friend of mine, the year that we shot that, I don't know if you remember, there was a guy who got, it might have been in the news, you might have heard about it in the news, a guy got stabbed in his carotid, in his artery in his leg, and he bled to death.
Jesus.
He was at some...
Did you know him?
Yeah, he was a good friend of mine, this guy by the name of Wolf. What happened was he was bouncing at a spot. This was right when we got the smoking ban here, where you couldn't smoke.
Oh shit!
indoors, and there was these guys who were part of probably like it looked like the Tong gangs, like the Asian Tong gangs. Okay. And they told the dude he couldn't smoke, and you can't come in and smoke, it's the law. And the guy took a knife and stuck him in the leg, but he hit on the inside of his leg and hit the artery, and the guy bled to death. And we went to his funeral. So I mean,
fuck. That happened to the other guy. What was his name? Eves, I think. The big 300-pound dude, right? But I mean, he didn't die. He just got stabbed and then bit and then maced.
Yeah. He was, I mean, it happened. I mean, we used to dump. I mean, I've done hip hop parties up in Harlem with. I don't know if you're familiar with the Zulu Nation with Africa Bambaataa.
Yeah.
Well, I've bounced with those guys where we got into beef with the Zulu Nation, where guys were trying to sneak in and win. A couple of dudes got their jaws. A couple of their guys got their jaws broke, and then we actually had a beef with the Zulu Nation. Like Bronx was like there was hits out on us in the Bronx.
Holy fuck, man!
But we had to go to African Bambaataa and kind of quell the whole thing down. I mean, it was, I mean, one thing about bouncing is like. If you're bouncing at a comedy club, it's an easy gig. But if you're doing real bouncing, especially young kids and stuff, they don't have no sense of value, have no sense of life.
They're all hammered.
You really have to be careful because you're a big dude. Nobody's going to fight you. They're going to shoot you or they're going to stab you,
Oh, of course, yeah, weapons. I mean, no one would obviously try to fight you except for that one fucking moron. Right. But, yeah, weapons would definitely come into play because, I mean, that's the only way around any of you guys. That whole crew of you guys were just fucking at least 6 foot, like 250 to 300 pounds at least, right? Yeah. So... I mean, weapons, absolutely, they're going to try. The one thing I did like, though, was, then they go on to you, and, they introduce everybody, then they go on to you, and it's like, they're talking to your mom, and your mom's like, I'm like, just talking great about you, and, actually, as well, it's interesting watching you beat the shit out of these guys and stuff, because, I watched you on the Artie Lang show this week. Right. And you're talking about how when you were younger, whatever, you're doing all sorts of illegal shit, whatever, and then you're coming home, and then the neighbors are there, and you're like, hey, how's it going? Just doing my shit, and nobody has any idea, right?
Yeah, definitely a duality. I was living a duality at that time.
Yeah.
Lives.
It's interesting to get a viewpoint on all that. I think a lot of people believe it, but I think people should watch that shit to really get that understanding of like the reality of Dante Nero and his fucking gonna break your jaw.
It's really it's funny because I remember there was a girl coming to my house and my mom was here and the girl was snowing, so this guy threw a snowball at her, right? So he was trying to talk to her, and then he threw a snowball at her, and he said something bitch or something like that. So she comes in crying, and she tells me the guy, she's crying, the guy threw a snowball at me, called me a bitch, right? And so I throw my boots on and I go up the block, right? So she's like, no, don't go. But my mom is here. And my mom is like, it's too late now, bitch. Like, if you didn't want him to go, you should have just shut your mouth and not told him. There's no way that you're going to tell him that somebody mistreated you and he's not going to go up there and smack somebody in the face. So she was like, don't go. The girl was like, don't go. So my mom has seen me in those situations run out of the house and, unhinge somebody's jaw so much. She's like, well, look, if you don't want him to go, you need to not tell him. So it kind of was like a given thing. Like when my sisters, I have 3 older sisters, and whenever they had problems, they only came to me when it was a dire situation.
Yeah, because they knew. It's like shit's going down.
Yeah, I'm going.
And it better be serious. I mean, I remember that story you told of your sister was having troubles with that dude that was kind of stalking her or whatever, right? Next thing you know, you're in his fucking office with your knee on his neck going, stay the fuck away from her, but then he's like a nice guy.
Yeah, he's like, I love her.
He like, just didn't understand.
I'm screaming, I'm choking the dude, I'm going, stop buying her flowers! Like,
I assume that's when your sister kind of realized, well, all right, I got to take this shit seriously if I'm going to send Dante after him, because that's the final line. That's when shit gets serious.
When you send me, I'm gonna handle it. So now, if you don't want it handled, then don't send me.
Yeah, because that's how it has to get handled. What are you gonna go do? Talk to him? Like, that's not really gonna do shit.
It is what it is, and I don't, and it's very kind of calculated and cold. When I know what I'm gonna do, and that
right.
And usually no way to stop that,
You actually, through your show, you actually kind of taught me how to fight in a sense. I mean, like what I liked what you said was you wound up saying if you're talking to one guy and all of a sudden it's getting heated and you realize like you're gonna fight. What this guy's doing is he's kind of just building up that energy to be able to hit you or whatever. So once you notice that's gonna happen, you just crack him first because he doesn't have that energy yet. And if you get him first, then you're ahead of
First of all, he's injured. Now he's got to fight injured. Second of all, he may not really have the heart to do it. That's why he's trying to get it together. He's trying to build up that kind of confidence in the first place. The only thing is, if he's a skilled dude,
then you got to kind of think like that, of course. But
if he's a skilled dude, you find dudes that are skilled. They usually are not looking for the problems anyway.
Of course, and as well, I would assume that someone that's skilled doesn't really need to build up that energy. They know what's going to happen, right? So it's like some angry dude. He doesn't really want to fight, but he's gonna fight you if it happens. So he's building up that energy because he needs that energy to be able to fight because he's not experienced or skilled, right?
Right. Well, it's funny. I just was on this. I was just on this thing. I was driving my car and there was a radio show, right? And there was two comics on the radio show that I didn't know. They're from New York. They played Gotham and they were instructors. They were teaching a class at Gotham. Now I didn't know them, but they had a psychiatrist on there, and the psychiatrist was talking about the whole element of fear and how fear itself is necessary so it gives you information so that you can protect yourself. So, but years of dealing with my own fears to the point where I kind of have overcome most of them, that I realize that fear is just it's almost a prehistoric emotion that is unnecessary. And when I say that, I mean like for instance, they made reference to first of all they said that you get up on stage and you're doing comedy, you want to do well and you're nervous about going on. And I said, and then one of the comics said, well, he always has a real kind of worries about a guy who's very cocky about his comedy, which opted me to call in. I go, this guy's talking about me, and I said I'm really cocky about my comedy. Number one, because I've spent 13 years honing my craft, right? Second of all, I've made all kinds of sacrifice that nobody in that audience has ever made for comedy. I was married. Me doing comedy is one of the things that split my marriage up. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I made a choice. It was an ultimatum, comedy or her, and I chose comedy. So
Jesus, I mean, like that. I don't understand how that happens because, like you said, right? A woman will fall in love with you for everything that you are, spend the rest of the relationship trying to change you, and then once she succeeds, she'll leave you, right? Sure. So if she's trying to change you like that, but you basically win, you fight it, you want to be a comedian, that's who you are. Right. Why does that wind up ending it?
Well, because I made the choice that I was going to leave.
Oh, okay, all right.
Like if all the support that I had given her and helped her get through school and helped her get her master's degrees and whatever, I just resented the fact that she didn't have the wherewithal to support me. And I in retrospect, I look back, when you look at trying to be a famous comedian or trying to be a successful comedian is a really insurmountable task when you think about how many people are doing comedy and what it takes to be recognized. I mean, even if I just look at whatever fame I've got right now, it's a phenomenal thing. It's a phenomenal accomplishment where I am right now. much less where I think I'll go in the next 5 years.
Absolutely. We're seeing that more and more just doing this, right? We don't do comedy or anything like that. And to put yourself out there and to try and build something to where these people, like certain famous people, are that big, it is absolutely insurmountable. It's huge.
Right. If you think about what you're doing and say somebody like Howard Stern, where his name is known all over the world. I mean, imagine the magnitude of that and how good he had to be and the sacrifices he had to make to do those things, you know?
Absolutely.
So, so I understand how, as a civilian, if you're not in the game, you don't understand that you're looking at like this is never going to happen. Even if you believe in somebody, the task is so insurmountable. But what I say is, when I'm on stage, I am the funny expert. I've made more sacrifices to be funny. I understand funny. I have studied funny, and I've been funny over and over and over again. So the audience is a bunch of sheep that I'm just leading the slaughter.
One of the quotes that I really like from you is that you're painting when you're up there. You have a palette of colors, which are different jokes and different forms and different ways of doing them, and they're basically the canvas, right?
Right. Well, you're using they're just viewing your painting.
Right. They're viewing it.
But none of them are artists. I mean, the extent of somebody. You caring what their judgment is the same extent of me being a brain surgeon and a guy walks into my operating room and goes, yo, you shouldn't cut that part of the brain out. And I go, who are you? And you go,
who the fuck are you?
You go, I'm the janitor. And then I tell you to get the fuck out of my operating room. You know, I mean, it's the same scenario.
Yeah.
So you should be cocky. I mean, even if you got a comic that's not really that good, and really is not doing well on stage, he still has more knowledge about laughter, being funny than anybody else.
Well, I mean, even if you discount funny and knowledge of comedy and everything, the way I look at it is you simply have more balls than me to get up in front of all these people and try and be funny and do comedy, because I've got a huge fear of standing in front of crowds, talking in front of crowds. I think that's one of the biggest fears in the world, right? And to be able to do that, I think that alone warrants being cocky to be up there.
Sure.
You just got to be cocky and really, you just got to believe in yourself when you're up there. You got to believe that what you're saying is funny.
That's why I think that if you're going to be on the stage, you know what I mean? That's why I don't think a crowd should be allowed to heckle because of that. Simply because I don't think they haven't earned.
Yeah, right, it's disrespectful.
It's not even just exactly
that's why they can be kicked out, right? That's why you can get a bounce.
Like in Canada, as Doug Stanhope pointed out, if a crowd goes, I didn't like that joke, and then now in Canada it's a human rights issue if you fucking make fun of the crowd.
Dante, I don't know if you heard about him.
No, what happened?
In Vancouver, there was a comedian. He was up there, and I don't know where it was. He was
an open micer too, by the way. Let's just put that. He's not a professional.
Right? And two lesbians or a bunch of.
I did hear about this.
Yeah, the lesbians at the table. Next thing you know, there's a civil rights lawsuit, and they actually won. Like, what the fuck is that?
I can't believe, that just proves how fucking pathetic we are in Canada. That's how perfect our lives are.
Canada hates comedy.
We have actual time to complain about this shit.
I didn't know that they won. I had heard about that, but I didn't know that they actually
won. And this guy
like 25 grand from them.
Yeah, and he was making no money because he was an open mic comic. This was which is insane.
And what's crazy about that is, where is the level of freedom of speech?
We don't have freedom of speech in Canada. We just don't. Like, that's why I for everything America does, you can them bombing places and the whatever the fuck it is that you think America is bad at,
or bad
going
for,
in and bankrupting countries. I love America hands down for the fact that you have freedom of fucking speech.
You know what? It's where the comics here are under attack the same way.
I think it's working its way down from Canada into the U.S.
That pussy is just dripping right down to your fucking place, man.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I mean, you had Tracy Morgan making apology.
Right.
God.
Yeah, the Tosh.0 thing, and so it's happening more and more. And who knows? I mean, listen, you cannot say faggot on stage anymore.
What? You can't at all? What do you
mean? You might be able to get away with it in a certain context, but you can feel the tension in the room when you say the word faggot.
You know what gets on me though? It's just one thing that drives me fucking crazy is that when people equate what gay people are going through now to what black people went through. It just
Who does that? I've never heard it. Seriously?
Go leave London and go to a big city, and that's all you'll hear.
They do it all the time. They do make that.
That's fucked.
I want to actually ask Dante a question because Dante is beige. I am also beige, and it's just like, okay, I don't know how to phrase this, but I'm gonna try. Because I know that when you were on Tough Crowd, you said to Patrice that Patrice thought you were Puerto Rican for like the first 8 years.
Yeah, first 5 years in Army, yeah.
How am I supposed to see? Because like, unless you look at my picture, I'm fucking mixed,
right.
But I'm like the whitest mixed person in my family.
See, Chris's problem is like he doesn't know where to fit in.
No, because it's just like this is the thing. Like black people will accept me, but I have to always go through, like...
You have to explain.
Exactly,
like,
and I don't like how...
You say nigga, and then people are like, what the fuck? And then you're like, no, listen.
Well, you
gotta explain.
Yeah, but I don't frivolously say it. That's the thing.
Right.
Here's what I think you gotta... I think black people in general, if you show yourself to be a cool motherfucker, then you're a cool motherfucker. It doesn't really matter. I think that I do a joke about that, how cool is more important than color. So I think in the context of it, but I mean, I also think that, there's words that are just taboo that you don't do, and I think, and you know what I mean? I think is the context. If you look at if you ever go on and you watch the Green Room on YouTube,
I like that show. I watched one episode. It's good.
There's an episode with Billy Burr and
and they talked about it. I love that's the one I saw.
The whole faggot question and stuff. But you have to also understand that your job as a comedian is to entertain, and so if that word is something that ultimately becomes something that changes the chemistry of the crowd, it's your job to recognize this. I've seen black comics, especially black comics that do predominantly black rooms, go on stage and go nigga this, nigga that, this nigga, and you could feel collectively the audience getting tighter. And not just because the word is being said, but it's the frequency in which the word is being said. It's
that's what I mean. Like, when I say that, I don't say it frivolously. And the thing is, this is what I worry about, is I have to worry about, it's never about what black people are going to do. Because black people take me and they accept me as just this weird thing in the fucking corner that I guess he counts, but I have to worry about white people thinking about how offended black people are going to be. That's what goes on constantly. I mean, that's
the new racism.
That's what happens with the gay issue, with the women's right issue. So people are constantly being offended for other people.
But exactly. But I think we need to rephrase it. It's white people, liberal white people, because it's almost 99%. It annoys me.
It's interesting talking about the beige. Because I think everybody knows by now we derived our name from the beige Phillip show and the black Phillip show.
And we asked first.
We did ask. We made sure. We want to make sure it's all right and everything. However, and this wasn't mentioned on the Lane Williams. Dante, you know Lane Williams, right? Of the Cult of Black Phillip?
Yeah, I know Lane well.
Right. We were talking to him, and it didn't get on air because I think Lane was a little... I didn't know how he felt about us putting stuff out on the air. I don't think he realized how open we were about things. He mentioned that he understood that, he was absolutely okay with having our name and everything the way it is, and but he said, we're probably going to get a lot of flack because you yourself, who is continuing the Black Phillip name and everything, you're getting all this flack from people, and you're doing it right. And we just have this name that, we chose basically out of fun because it was like an homage to Patrice and everything. He goes, you guys are going to get a lot of hate from people because of that. And so we recently started thinking, we were like, you know, he's kind of right. We don't do anything with relationships anyway.
Except for the advice from Ellie shit.
Right. You know, we should get to that in a few minutes because we're almost done. But we're wondering, because we had come up with a couple names, and we were wondering, how would you go about changing a name? You know what I mean? Because we're thinking about changing it. You know, what do you think about that?
Well, we talked about this before, and what I said to you before was I think you have to decide, just like the direction of the show. I think you have to decide what direction you're going to show. I think if you have, if you don't have a niche, it makes it very difficult to promote the show.
Of course.
People need labels. They need a way to label it to say, okay, this is this and this is that. And when they can't label something, that becomes difficult for them. It becomes difficult to categorize, and it kind of.
Of course, it makes sense, right? So, especially since our label is basically the opposite of what we do,
right.
We've basically decided to change it, and we'd been thinking. I guess we hadn't really decided on it, but me and Chris are a couple of curmudgeons, right? We just curmudgeons. So we're thinking the new name should be Curmudgeon Community.
It's kind of catchy.
Right. You know, something like that. So.
Well, actually, originally we were going to do Curmudgeonry, Comedy, and Cuntery, the Triple C show. That's what we were going to originally do. But apparently we can't say cunt, so.
Right.
Yeah. So you know, that's our piece. I think we kind of need. We're gonna start letting people know that the name's gonna change.
Okay.
Don't know how we're gonna do that. We definitely don't want to lose our affiliation with you. But you know.
Listen, I think you're putting it. I mean, it's commendable that you're putting something out there. You're trying to put a product out there. One of my things that's become very. Like the whole YouTube thing for me is with this whole thing with Kane Carter and the whole thing that went down, and my realization of how dumb the generation, you know, his fan base was, and the generation of those YouTubers are, because there's just no integrity, no righteousness. You know, I've gotten hate mail from people like, so what he steals, and to start, you know, when you start your comment with so what he steals, then I really need to not talk to you. I mean,
there's no, you're not even setting yourself up for a reasonable conversation when you do that.
Exactly.
Now, Dante, I want to just interject here, because when this summer I was working, you know, and this guy was like talking about how, fucking Jerry Levine's my favorite comic, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, they're not comics. I'm not even in this conversation. I'm on the, you know.
Right.
Peripheral to it, on the outside. And he goes, yeah, man, King Carter's the shit. And I was just like, okay, you know he steals jokes, right? He goes, no, he doesn't. And then I showed him all this shit, and he was just like, dude, he'd never heard of Patrice O'Neal. And I'm like, yeah, and you'd never heard of the Beige Phillip show. And it just, I was like, it bothers me that...
The real question was, what was his take once you showed him the stuff?
He said, so... You retell jokes that you hear, but I go, yeah, but I'm not making money off it, and I don't pass them off as my own. I say, I heard this. This is funny to me. I didn't say, this is me, and I don't do everything word for word, you know? But people pass it off these days like it means nothing, because that's what this whole fucking generation does.
But you know, what's interesting about the whole YouTube thing is what I realized the point where I was giving you guys props for putting a product out there is because you're actually doing something. The reason why videos go viral is because when somebody finds something funny on YouTube, right, they go, wow, this is funny, right? So, Nick, you send it to Chris.
Yeah.
What people are really doing is they're claiming other people's content. And because half the time nobody looks at whose content it is in the first place.
They don't care.
So because you send it to him and he says, "Wow, that's a cool video," and then Chris sends it to somebody else, and then you're sending, and that's how things go viral, because people who are not doing anything are taking people's content and sending it to other people who are not doing anything and sending them content and so on and so forth, and that's how it goes viral.
Well, you know, I like the term viral because it's like AIDS. You know, you're passing AIDS. You didn't create AIDS, but you're passing it on.
Exactly. And what's really crazy about that is the fact that you're creating your own content, which is a good thing, because then you understand what it is to create something and then have somebody steal it, or to create something and know what it takes to create a good product.
Of course.
The other thing is, all of these millions of fans that listen to Kane Carter or listen to whoever, all these YouTubers, the question is, how many of them would watch the videos if they had to pay $1 per view?
None. Exactly. And you know the thing is, too, what we've realized, and this is why we're off YouTube now, because YouTube, they started censoring us. In a sense, originally I understood the first offense. I put up one of our videos with just a chick and her titties hanging out, right?
Right.
And they noticed me and they're like, do that again, blah blah blah. And then the next offense, and this is why we're off, because I don't know if you've ever heard of the comedian Mark Nabong. She's from Chicago. He's a friend of Ian Ellis's.
And he's a friend of this show.
Right. So we had a debate basically with Mark Nabong about rape jokes and how his view on it, and how basically what it came down to is we don't like people getting their jobs taken away for certain jokes. People just the specialty groups, they wound up getting this guy fired and shit because anyway. The title of the video was Mark Nabong debates rape jokes, and YouTube took that video down and suspended us for 2 weeks because we had the word rape in our title.
Wow.
So we decided, fuck this shit. We're not gonna put up with that kind of censorship. And I started to realize it's a good thing. YouTube isn't really meant for us anyway, because anyone watching YouTube, basically, none of them have an attention span. Like I noticed, I went to the stats of our videos, and it's like 5 seconds per watch of our video. It's like we're putting out hour episodes here, and like we don't need to be putting it out to people that don't want to watch the whole thing.
Well, that's actually the thing why Kane Carter was so successful, is because
he's got 5-minute videos, right?
He took the content of what Patrice had done and what Kevin Hart had done, and all these other guys, all these other comics. Because I think there's another guy who did videos. This guy Mischief Maker, and he actually did another video where it shows him stealing from Kevin Hart, stealing from Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle and a bunch of other comics.
Just a lot of comedians are.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and which makes sense, because if he was stealing from Patrice, it didn't start there. So plus he's a 26-year-old kid who's spitting Patrice game and my game, and it's like you didn't live that. So but in the context of all of that, here's what happens: these YouTube stars, they're YouTube stars because nobody has to pay for their content.
Right, of course. That's why YouTube is so great, is because it's free.
Right.
That's why we're so poor, is because that's where we've been putting it up. Right?
How many people would actually pay $1 a view to watch some cat fucking
exactly.
Somebody tickle a cat?
You're damn sure it wouldn't be 12 million, No. So, exactly. So but I mean, even you're putting out great content. You're putting out a great fucking show every week, and you're on iTunes.
Check it out on iTunes. Plug.
It's still free. Well, right? And to be honest, I think everybody would pay the $1.
You have to, but you have to seek it out. It's just not a random, and it's something where you have to have, like you said, you have to have an attention span. And what Kane did was he took game, he synthesized it down to bullet points, and he fed it to a bunch of idiots who are on YouTube who have no dignity and no integrity. I just got a video from a guy, a hate video. This guy, he's kind of late. He's talking about the beef that's on YouTube with whoever the fuck this guy is, Dante Nero. He looks like a fucking Suge Knight, like just an idiot.
Looks like Suge Knight.
I send the guy. I said, "You're uninformed." I sent him a message. First of all, he tweets me his video, so clearly he wants me to listen to it. So I don't know whether he thought I was going to retweet it or whatever, but I watched it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So I sent him a message. I DM him back. I go, "Listen, you're uninformed." I go, "Plagiarism is stealing. If you don't understand that, we have nothing further to talk about. If you do understand that, then let's connect and we can chop it up and talk about it, right?" And he goes, "Everybody steals everything. I stand by that. Chop that up." And I said, "Eat a dick." and I blocked him.
Good. But you know what? You know what? Like when I was in college, some people stole some of my shit just for like, you know, because I went to like college for television, you know.
Right.
And some people stole not fucking just my ideas that I had said out loud, and I was like, just you can see it. Just it's a cum move. It's a cum move.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason.
Look, it's a painful thing. Because
for sure.
what it takes you to synthesize these ideas and put them down on paper and really work them out. I had another kid that sent me a video, and he sent me this video. In the video, he had a video about what he created these archetypes called high horse bitch, high horse club bitch, like it was just these arbitrary kind of archetypes. So he said if you could critique my video, I'd appreciate it. So I said, listen, the video was well done, but I said the content is not universally true. It's only true to you. I said I haven't come in contact with any of these bitches you're talking about. This is something that you made up. I go, and so he says I like the way you. I like the way he put the video together, the way he edited it, but there was just no real content. So, but the kid was, you know, every once in a while you get one that's got a little head on it. He goes, well, how can I make it better? So I said to him, what you need to do is you need to talk about something. If you have an idea or a thought and you want to philosophize, the most important thing about being profound is not worrying about whether you're profound. It's looking for truth. When you find truth, then you have to synthesize that down to what the truth actually is. I go, and then once you've synthesized to exactly what the truth is, then you can create a video how to explain that. And that's what makes you profound. But real being profound, it's not about looking like you're profound.
Oh.
It's about being profound. So real game is no game at all.
Exactly.
And
which page Phillip rule is that?
But that's 16. I think it's 16. But it applies even to this. And so the kid, he said thanks a lot. He understood what I was talking about.
That's the thing about your philosophy and your show and everything. It's not just relationships. It's an underlying philosophy to everything.
Life.
To life. It can be applied to everything if you're looking at it from the right direction, if you're looking at it the right way. And that's what I've really loved about it is as soon as I discovered Black Phillip and Beige Phillip, that's when all of a sudden I've gained the confidence to, well, just do this show. I don't think I could have ever done something like this before I discovered that because
the thing is, Nick was always looking for a way to do something like this, but he convinced himself he wasn't, and I knew that, and I just knew I had to find a way to get through his fucking hard tortoise shell. And this show was just like the fucking hammer, man. That's
and I gained the confidence. But Dante, there's something we got to talk about. You are too accessible to so many of these losers. Like, Patrice always said, like, you can't, like, man, I shouldn't, like he said to Bob Kelly, I shouldn't be able to talk to you. Like, you shouldn't be able to just call me up. You know, and like, you're way too accessible to, like, us. We're a couple of nothings. And, like, these guys that are asking to critique videos and shit, like, what the fuck, man? You're way too famous. You should really just be like, fuck these guys. These shitty...
I think here's the difference. I mean, I think when you're accessible to people, I think they recognize that you're accessible to them. And I think that you get a fan that is really in your corner. So...
like us,
right?
Like,
so here's the thing. I mean, if you like what I do, there's an arrogancy to it, and then there's a humility to it. Number one, if you like what I do, I feel like you should like it because I've worked really hard on putting out the product. I know what I'm talking about, and your compliments. I say thank you, but your compliments are an acknowledgement of what the truth is. So when somebody says, wow, that was really profound, I go, thank you, but in my head I'm going, yeah, you motherfucking right, it was profound. I've spent so much time working on it. It's just like if a chick says to me, wow, I love you, I go, of course, because I'm lovable. Like
you've been working at being in love, like you know,
this
because
is what I like. This is what I wanted to ask, and I wanted to ask since the beginning. But is you guys, and specifically Patrice, but you guys talk about giving bitches options on how to feel about something. My thing is, how do you do it without coming across as conceited and like you're better than the person?
I don't think you worry about, like, if you're better, then you're not really worried about how somebody perceives it. You tell the truth. You speak with the truth and the conviction of having truth, and how anybody interprets it, they interpret it.
See, this is kind of a bit that it's almost become a bit on our show. Almost at the end of every episode, seems like everybody, we wind up getting into a conversation about Chris's life and how everybody's trying to help him. Because
people
he's
want to
got
help
fucking
me,
problems.
but I just won't let people in. I'm fucking awful.
I think you have to do. It's like, I was tweeting about this today. I go, don't have an opinion unless you're thoroughly versed on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And when you're not thoroughly versed, you got to shut the fuck up.
See, what we've kind of came to actually when Lane was on here and he was talking, we were talking about it, and we kind of came to the conclusion that we think that Chris kind of speaks to hurt these bitches rather than help them, right? So the truth is there, but it's to, like, he's just saying it to make them feel bad that they're fucking idiots, rather than to make them realize that they're wrong, that they need to see it a different way.
Here's what I would say to you: that you always have to live in abundance, and when you're living in abundance, anybody you're around, you should be trying to uplift them. You should be trying to teach them. You should be trying to uplift them. If somebody's wrong, you don't make them feel bad because they're wrong. What you want to do is teach them so that they grow. So I get guys who, like I'm dealing with a cat right now who, broke up with his girlfriend, and he's devastated by this, and he feels like he can't stop calling her, and he can't. And I've been in that situation where my nuts were twisted like that. So I'm not making him feel fucked up because
everybody gets got.
Right. I don't want to make him feel fucked up because he's weak. I want him to understand that weakness and why he needs to act in logical ways.
Of course. Did he wind up? I mean, I'm sure you probably asked all the questions. Like, did he wind up leaving her better off than when they started? Or?
He absolutely did. But what's happening now is she's on TV and stuff, and so he's dealing with these ego issues because of the fact that everything that he did to help her has actually helped her. And so now
you can't take it as like a bad thing. Just be happy that you went through it and you helped her and you made her better than she was.
He feels betrayed because of the fact that he feels like she took advantage of him. Now the problem with that is she may have taken advantage of him, but anytime somebody takes advantage of you, it's because you've allowed it. Like there were always extensive flags, red flags that tell you that this person is selfish or this, and what we do is ignore it. And as a man, it's your responsibility to look at things as they truly are. If you're not, it's your fault.
God damn.
Of course, it's always the man's fault, right?
Right.
One of the things I kind of wanted to ask you is, you say you got to know. Basically, you got to be able to see what she needs and give her what she needs and not what she wants, right?
Right.
So, what are some of your tricks to see what she needs, to notice what she needs?
The biggest trick you have to do is you got to listen.
Right.
Listen.
But
talking, you have to listen.
I listen, but I just kind of I don't see those flags go up when I see the flag go up when it's a need.
It takes time to learn how to do that. Words are very, very important. You have to really understand the inference of words. Like something that a theory that I'm working on now is when somebody says, "I'm trying to do something." What does that mean when somebody says, "I'm trying"? Are they really making this effort, or are they not making effort? And what I've realized is when somebody says they're trying, what they're doing is they're aware of what they need to be doing. They're also aware that they are not doing it as in every opportunity that they can.
So maybe it's a sign of procrastination.
Well,
I've always
fear. It could be fear. It could be a lot of things. But the point of it is that trying is not doing.
Right. Of course.
Trying is the process of making an attempt. Doing is the act of execution. So when somebody says they're trying, not only are they aware of what they should do, but they're also aware that they're not doing it with the frequency that they should do it as well. So when a chick says, you go, listen, I need you to do this. I need you to take care of this. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. When she says, well, I'm trying, that's what that means.
Or if she says, okay, I'll try.
Right. Or I've had a chick when I was dealing with a chick, and she says, I was like, I need this from you, I need you to do this. And she was like, sometimes I think I'm not good enough for you. Right?
Okay.
And what that means is, it doesn't mean that she really feels that she's not good enough. What she's saying is, what I'm giving you right now is all I'm giving you, and what I'm giving you is not enough, and that's not good enough for you. See, she could also answer like this: I will do my absolute best to fulfill everything, or I will do though, or I'll fix those things that are broken. She can say, I'll fix them. I love you, and I will fix it.
I think the thought that the when you say you're trying, I think it's like in the back of the head, the underlying the subcontext is there's a possibility it might not happen. You know what I mean? Like they're thinking that it's possible that it might not happen.
It's not that at all. It's that it didn't happen.
Yeah, see, because when someone tells me they're trying, I just immediately feel like if you were trying, you wouldn't have to tell me that. I would see that.
Or if they were trying, you wouldn't have to ask if it's happening.
Yeah,
you would kind of see it.
If I said pay me my $5 back, and you go, I'm trying, that means you didn't pay me back.
But what about this though? I mean, you and I were talking, and you're like, all right, yeah, we're 5:30 or what, Friday, we're doing the show, and then you call me up, and it's like I'm trying to get it set up. I'm trying to get Google set up. You know what I mean? You're trying, but I mean, you're doing it, and I can tell that you're doing it.
But when you're talking about in the context of relationships and what somebody what somebody is what the other. I guess what I'm saying is the thing that you have to pay attention to is the context and subtext and inference, and those are the things that tell you what a woman needs and what she wants, because she's constantly giving those. What does she really mean when she says that? So if a chick says, I'm not good enough for you, what she's saying is, this is all I'm willing to do.
Yeah, because the one saying that's kind of stuck out in my mind, I don't know where I heard it, but someone once said, if someone says they're not good enough for you, you should believe them.
Well, absolutely, but what it might be but ultimately what she's saying is, this is all I got.
Yeah.
Now, the question is this all I got, or are you important enough for me to see what else I got going? Really, are we ever doing our best? I don't think we're ever doing our best. There's always a chance where we could do better. So
I agree.
So for somebody to the admission of I'm not enough is the admission that this is it. I'm done. She's saying I'm done. So
yeah.
Where it sounds like, wow, it's almost like I'm pitiful, I can't do better, which that's not what she's saying. She's saying I won't do better, and I won't make any attempts to do better.
I think because it's like in order to do that much better, there's going to be certain things that need to be sacrificed, which she's not willing to sacrifice.
And that's what she's saying. So when you start to look at those subtexts and you start to look at those inferences, you can see what somebody wants to do. I just talked to a dude, and he was talking about how his girl, he's 22, he's 24 years old, he got a girl, she's 21, they have a 3-year-old son. he says she's not affectionate enough, and he doesn't want to cheat on her because whatever, he was going through this whole thing, and he was saying to me, well, what is she? I said, well, he says, well, I talked to her. She says, well, she doesn't feel that he's approachable. And I go, well, why does she think that? And he goes, well, she says, my facial expressions don't make me, she says, it doesn't make me look approachable. And then he goes, I go, so what's the deal? Why does she think that? I go, are you approachable? She goes, well, I've had a hard life. He goes, a lot of times I do look like a motherfucker that don't take no shit. And I go, so already what he's saying is, I know that my facial expression is not approachable. So you're asking her to do something when you know that you're unapproachable.
Yeah, see, you mentioned on your show a lot with these questions is the things that they're saying and asking, they're really they know it already.
Exactly.
It comes kind of back to when you had Patrice. You could talk to someone, and it's basically you already knew it, but you need to bounce it off someone to kind of hear yourself say it, right? So, an email question is kind of, it kind of sucks. That's why I like talking to you on the phone. Like, you're getting that ability to call in to your show now, right?
Yeah, we're working on that now.
And it's amazing that the difference between writing it and then saying it out loud and then hearing it. And basically, as you're, like, telling them what the deal is, they've kind of already heard it because they just said it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then you kind of put it eloquently out there, kind of ease it into their brains or whatever, and then they know what they got to do.
But even the answers that I'm giving them is based on the questions that I'm asking them, and they're giving me the information. So but this whole thing about trying actually came from this dude. He said, I said, so you need to be more approachable, and he says, yeah, I'm trying to do that, and I go, no, you're not. I go, you want her to approach you and be more affectionate, then you need to be more approachable. You don't need to try to be more approachable.
So essentially, you're supposed to be the truth, not think the truth.
Right, and if you're saying you're giving me excuses, you had a rough life, you this, that, and the other, but you ultimately want some kind of outcome, but you're not willing to give up your screw face and be a little more pleasant to sacrifice that. And so that's why you're trying it. And I've been doing this such a long time that I understand the context and the inferences of things at a level that most people don't. And because of that, it's very easy for me to see it. But when you practice to really listen, when you really start to listen to people, they tell you everything. A woman will tell you everything. I mean, a dude will tell you everything. The little things that they say give you the lead into everything that they're thinking.
Yeah, I think. See, the thing is I don't know the exact stat, and people are gonna fuck with me about this, but it's like I heard most of language and conversation. It's like 80% body language, right? Or something like that. And so
body language, tone, cadence,
if what you're saying is only like 20% or less, then what you're saying, no matter what you're saying, it's really important.
Exactly.
And so to be able to listen and understand that subcontext and all that is absolutely a huge key in being able to work with other people.
Right. Now, when you're talking to a chick, the same thing works when you're talking to her, and she's because the only reason why people talk is to communicate information or to communicate information or to get information. It's the only reason why we talk.
Right.
So if you're talking, that's what you're trying to do.
Okay.
And if you're not doing that, then shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's all about information.
And sometimes people are trying to communicate false information to keep you off the track of what they really think.
Yeah, fuck that. And that's where I think that is something that I am not too good with.
But it's the same as, it's really, I hate this, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it really needs to be oversimplified. It's a matter of listening. A lot of times I will talk to people and they'll go, well, it's this. And I go, no, it's not. And then I'll explain to them why it's not this. It's because you're not looking at the deeper meaning. My nephew, I don't know if you ever heard the Beige Phillip with my nephew, and he's taking singing lessons.
Yeah. And then he addresses your audience, and you're like, motherfucker, don't address my fucking audience. Are you kidding me?
He has a problem because he's a know-it-all, and he thinks that he knows everything, but he doesn't know anything. And so what he does do is he has a real problem accepting the process. So he has a vocal coach, but he won't accept the process. So if you don't accept the process, you're not going to learn anything.
So are you saying
Christ?
Are you saying he wants to jump from not being able to sing to being able to sing without going through vocal coaching and everything?
And how familiar this sounds to me? Do you have any idea how familiar it sounds to like everything I do? Holy shit!
What is that now? You, or is that you?
Dude, I will not accept the process unless it's on my terms on anything.
And the thing is that you can't assume that you know more than somebody who knows and dedicated more. So part of what you have to understand is the geniuses of today stand on the shoulders of the geniuses of yesterday. You don't, whatever you say about not accepting the process of something, when you go to the store and you give them your money, you're not trying to reinvent math. You accept math. You take a math course. You learn how to add and subtract. You're not saying, listen, I'm fuck this math shit. I'm gonna come up with a new system. You accept that.
Yeah, okay.
So, any task is that way where you have to. So what he would do is he would take a vocal coach and then he'd ask them 50 questions and ask him, and he'd be doing research on his own and what about this and what about that and what about this, instead of just shutting the fuck up and learning what needs to be learned.
Just saying, okay, yes, sir, I'll do that right now.
Exactly. And then you can always find out if the dude's a fraud anyway, because if you're listening, you'll know that. And then, so my nephew said he got a new vocal coach. He says, I'm accepting the process. And he goes, but every time we start the vocal lessons, he makes me fall back and I catch him. He catches me. And I go, those are trust exercises.
Yeah.
And I go to him, he goes, well, he does that every and I go, the only reason why he's doing that is because there's a trust issue. If there was no trust issue, there would be no trust exercises. If there's trust exercises, there's a reason for trust exercises, which means you're not trusting the process. So I would say to him, you're not trusting the process. He goes, you don't know what I am. I go, no, you're not. You're not, and I know you're not.
But then you probably outlined why, right?
And then I tell him, he goes, well, he says he does trust exercises with everybody. I go, no, he doesn't.
So this vocal coach probably senses the distrust?
He senses the distrust, that he's not trusting the process, and so he's trying to implement something so that he can be more effective. Now, if he was effective, why would he do that? Why would he waste his time on somebody who he was already affected to? Nobody wastes time like that.
Of course. At least not consciously. Well, no, this guy might not be consciously doing the trust exercise or whatever. I mean, he probably is, but it's possible that it's just subconscious that he doesn't sense any trust in the relationship, so he automatically knows to do certain things that bring on trust.
You have to assume it's because my nephew is bringing that poison into the classroom.
Right, of course.
Dealing as a teacher, he's dealing with that poison.
Right, and see, that's what I love about, I think that's what the great part about the Black Phillip show and the Beige Phillip show are, the philosophy. I mean, the show winds up being all these things that seem complicated are broken down to the simplest form for us laymen's to understand it.
Right. And you know what's really interesting about that is that Patrice couldn't do that.
Yeah.
He really wasn't good at doing that.
See,
and that was the thing that I thought that I could do for the show.
Right. That was actually my next question was, if Kate, say, I don't know, Patrice is brought back from the dead right now, whatever, right? What do you think that he would look at your show and agree with and disagree with? I know you said that it's evolved from from the Black Phillip show, and it's way different, and you two are different people, and you got different ways of going about things. But what do you think, if he looked at it now and he understood the evolution of it, what do you think he would disagree with, or
I think he would have Let me think. I think he would have. I think he thinks that I was too accessible. I think he would think that I'm too accessible.
Okay. You know, the way the one thing I can kind of remember from the Black Phillip show, tell me if I'm wrong, I think what I remember hearing was, Patrice was all about just full-on brutal honesty, right? And then you said, no, listen, man, you gotta lie all the time. You gotta constantly, like, there's these constant lies, and you gotta be thinking about,
that's what I'm talking about right there.
Ahead.
That's why I relate to Patrice so much, because that's exactly how I feel. I hate the fact that I have to lie just to get through it. And it's just like, I don't want to do it no more, but I recognize now that I think I'm willing to give up like a little bit of the truth to be happier.
I think some people are not ready for the truth, and they're ready for portions of it. I think that I used to watch Patrice walk an audience. Like, he would walk a third of the audience.
That's crazy.
And I, as a younger comic, I used to think, wow, that's amazing. Like, he really doesn't give a fuck. And I admired him for it. But now that I'm headlining myself,
it's not the best.
It's absurd. It's absurd. There's people who have paid to see you, and they love you, and they want to like you. And a lot of times Patrice had an issue. He had his own issues because he didn't want to be liked a lot of times.
Yeah.
He wore his assholeness like a badge of honor.
Yeah, of course.
And his anger with women was something that he wore with a badge of honor as well. And it really, you know, if you look at the last part of his, that we debated that constantly, but the last part of his career and his life was him finally playing ball.
Yeah.
Allowing people to like him more, allowing people, taking opportunities, allowing people to help him.
See,
you know,
what I'm kind of thinking, though, is I'm just curious, I guess, kind of what you meant by that. When I don't know if I'm misquoting you or not, but I seem to remember that. I don't know if you could even remember what I'm talking about. It was just like the different takes on it of, like, you were saying, you know, if you're gonna lie, you gotta be thinking 10 years ahead for that lie, and it's like you were saying, that's the proper way of going about in a relationship. When Patrice was saying, no, right from the get-go, you are completely honest about all of it, and if she doesn't like it, she can go fuck herself. Was that right? Am I quoting that right?
Yeah, I think but I think that sometimes there's a technique called plausible deniability, where a woman wants to be lied to about a situation.
Kind of like Mara when she says, "If you're gonna cheat, I don't want to know about it."
Exactly.
Okay.
She just doesn't want to. She understands that guys are not monogamous. She gets that. But she also is in a situation where she's going, you know, hey, if you're gonna do it, I don't want to know about it, because I'm gonna look at you differently. And I understand logically, but emotionally, I'm not gonna be able to deal with this.
See, my thought with that monogamy and everything is basically off the bat, you let them know there's other girls, you're not looking for a relationship, and like Patrice said, if it's a dojo, she works her way up to that rank where it's like, okay, you know what, I'm ready to be monogamous for you. She pimped it right. She got you right, and now you're open about being monogamous, and that's just kind of the way I see it is. Like, if you're open about it, if you are completely honest, it's got to be right off the bat. Right off the bat, you're saying, look, there's other girls, but if you work your way to the top, if you work your way to being just my girl, then I'm going to be monogamous, and I'll tell you when I'm monogamous, and I'll stay that way.
Right. Well, I think that's right in a sense, but I think what happens is girls want that monogamy. They think they deserve it.
Right, and I honestly don't feel that most girls deserve it right off the bat like that.
No, it's like walking into the army and saying, I want to be sergeant major. Yeah, actually, I've been alive for this long, so I should be a colonel. Right. You gotta earn that. You have to attain that by good conduct and going through tours of duty.
But there's also a situation where there's the pretense of you getting laid might be the inference that might be the case, even if she believes that it's not the case.
Okay, so that's where kind of the dishonesty comes in. It's not exactly dishonesty, but it's omission basically.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
it gives her the plausible deniability.
All right, yeah. See, these are things that I've kind of wanted to clear up over here and over the days or months, whatever. Because I've only discovered you guys within months. It's probably been 6 months, and these start like things that stuck in my head that I just wanted to clear up.
Right.
We've gone pretty much way over an hour.
We still gotta do some
yeah, fuck it, man. Dante will come back sometime, hopefully, and
Dante, I just want to interject again. I know I've been doing it the whole time, but Dante, all this shit he just said relates to me so much, and it's going to help me. And I know that I can change by just being the truth. That's all I got to do. I don't have to try the truth. I got to be the truth.
That's true. I think that's true.
You've completed the bit of helping Chris with his fucked up life. So.
Me saying nothing too.
Yeah. You know what? You should plug your shit, and then we'll plug our shit, and then we'll get out of here.
All right, you got Beige Phillip on iTunes. You can also go to beigephillip.com, and you can follow me on Twitter /Dante Nero.
All right. You guys check us out on Facebook.com/The Red Phillip Show. Follow us on Twitter, Twitter.com/The Red Phil, TheRedPhil. You can find our full episodes on Hulkshare.com. Just look up The Red Phillip Show. I think you can type in Hulkshare.com/The Red Phillip Show. And you know what? You can check us out on Spreaker.com as well. We're going to start going live soon. As soon as we get some fucking studio equipment, that's Spreaker.com, and you just look up Red Phillip Show.
I want to give a shout out to O.J. Simpson. He got in shit for stealing oatmeal cookies in prison, so I want to give a shout out to O.J. And anyone out there with oatmeal cookies, send him some shit, please. And I don't mean that as I really want to. I want to send O.J. some oatmeal cookies. Man.
Yeah, let's make a campaign to send O.J. some cigarettes or something.
He wants oatmeal cookies. He doesn't want.
Let me roll out, baby. I gotta get out of here.
All right, everybody. Peace.